For the opening slide and the slides of the plane in pure white, today I'm assembling the Dynamic S. It is from Durafly. It is a performance V-tail sailplane. The instructions say it should only take 15 minutes to assemble. I will put that to a test in a bit, but it took me at least about a half hour to put the decals on properly. Although the instruction manual shows these decals on a page, the actual assembly instructions show different markings on the plane used in that. However, I was able to find these decals on the pictures in the Hobby King website so that I knew which went where, and it was pretty obvious anyway, but it helped confirm it. One thing that was nice is that there's a niche already made in the decal for the air scoop, so where you position them on the side was already set for you unless you want to have to cut things out. Now, one nice thing about this plane is no glue is required. I'll just be using screwdriver or 2 screwdrivers to assemble the V-tail bolts together, the center wing bolts together. It has a square carbon fiber rod, and this square goes over a smaller square one, and that larger one goes over this smaller one in the left wing. Hobby King was nice enough to send me a 3-cell 1800 milliamp battery pack and an orange receiver to use with my Spectrum transmitter. Thanks to them and having my own transmitter and charger, I have everything I need for this review. I'm starting with the tail assembly. I connected the servo wire to the lead on this side, and then I pushed the wire up. There's a trough or canal there for it to get it out of the way. Then I simply plugged in the servo into the holder, and it's now ready to have its mount put on. I will be removing the wire to do the assembly because that is in the way, but I'll get the second one on and then remove the wires. The servo mounts appear to be designed for the right one to go on top of the left one, so I somewhat lucked out in my start of the assembly. Again, the wires for both tuck forward into the fuselage to get them out of the way. Next, the plate is mounted over the servos and will be held in place with 2 bolts, one here and one here, maybe 3 bolts. I've trial fitted the securing plate over the stabilizers and see that I put my decal on slightly wrong. It should have been a little bit more forward to match up. Now that you know that, you can do it properly. This will be secured in place with 3 bolts going into the fuselage, and then there are mounts that go from the bottom of the tail pieces up, and 2 screws or bolts per side will secure those in place to secure the tail feathers. 2 of these tail pieces were included, but curiously there's absolutely no mention of them in the instruction manual. I had to make a decision if I was going to put them into the tail piece and put the decal over them on the bottom, or leave them off, put the decal on, and if necessary puncture the decal and have this thing showing. I decided to install them and then put on the decals, and we'll see how that works. After trying this piece underneath the decal, I did not like the way it looked. The decal remained puffy around the edges and might have wrinkled, so I lifted the decal up, removed the piece. I will puncture the decal and have this on top. It might not be as unsightly as it would have been underneath, but I think in the long run it'll work better just to add this after the decals. Okay, the main tail mounting plate was secured with 2 bolts that came with the bolts for the wings in the wing bag. Then there were 5 small bolts, 2 for each wing, tail wing piece, and 1 in the very front of the section into the fuselage. Those are the white plates I showed earlier, and they're a little unsightly obviously, but I think they went better through the decal rather than trying to put it underneath it because they're enough of a bump that they were causing me a problem. You've got the choice, you can do it either way. They were a little snugger against the foam with the bolts in them, tightening them in place. The servo arms and control rods will be added after I put in the receiver, bind it, and make sure that the servos are centered. So I'll do that next before moving on to the wing. There we have the servo arms installed, control rods installed, and the V-tail fully assembled. Here is the top plate installed on the wing. There are two spots for the bolts that go through and into the fuselage to secure it. The bottom side was secured with two small bolts in the front and two in the back with the plastic retainers. The retainers help fit in place and have little bars to help secure it in the center of the fuselage. The wing assembly was extremely quick. My tail assembly took longer than 15 minutes, but this took about 3 minutes. A Y-harness was included in the kit for the ailerons. Took me about a minute to put that on, including the camera work. Now I will attach the wing to the fuselage. Here we have the wing mounted to the fuselage. The electric speed control has a Dean's connector. While my battery came with a different style of connector, they did include a short jumper to connect the two together. And the assembly is complete. Nice looking sailplane. I'm going to have to remove the wing for transportation, but I do not have to disassemble it. I can travel it and store it as a one-piece wing with the 4 small bolts. But if I needed to, I could take it apart with just removing those 4 bolts, making sure that I had a container to hold them in when the wing wasn't assembled.